always desired to be a mother, and just kind of felt like it's God's timing. You know, when it happens, it happens. Like I said, I didn't get pregnant with my first marriage, and I just kind of chucked it up to thank God, you know, and we were able to walk away from that without any ties. And then after I met my husband and we dated, and during that time I was on birth control. And so again, just thinking I wasn't ready. And then after we got married, I completely came off of birth control in 2011, and just was waiting on it to naturally happen. And after a couple of years, it was kind of one of those things of why am I not getting pregnant? So I started with my regular gynecologist and having her check, and we just kind of started doing little things, you know, Clomid and different things, and testing me. Yeah. It was determined then that I had a tilted uterus, but still that wasn't any concern for her to think of, you know, why I couldn't get pregnant. So we continued on for about another year and a half before taking it to the next level. And she recommended that I, you know, see a specialist at an infertility treatment in Atlanta.
And so the first time you saw a specialist, how old were you?
That was in 2015. I'm 44 now.
So 6 years ago, you were 38?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yes, I was getting ready to turn 38. I think I was 37 actually, because I was really nervous about getting ready to turn 38 and hadn't gotten pregnant yet.
Did you do FSH, AMH, like what was the testing that they?
They began to do the testing at that time, and it was determined that I had PCOS. And so they put me on metformin, just kind of, I'm not diabetic, but it was just kind of, you know, my levels, and felt like maybe that was a part of the problem. So we started doing just Clomid and different things like that. And then I did a couple of treatments of insemination. I think I actually did 4 inseminations, and none of them were successful. Bleeding, and should I go to the doctors or should I go to the emergency room? And she advised me that I should go to the emergency room. And as I'm pulling into, I find the closest, you know, hospital in Lakeland, and I'm pulling into the emergency room parking lot, thinking I'm just going to park and walk in. I really feel blood coming now. And so I just literally pulled up somewhere in front of the emergency room, jumped out, ran in. And as I ran in, the security guard looked at me and blood was just going everywhere, and I was screaming. It was like a movie. And so at that moment, I was like, you know, I'm no longer pregnant. And so they put me in the bed. They run the test. My husband by that time makes it to the emergency room. Called my pastor. He came over. They take us, you know, take me and run tests, and they see because it was this clots of blood and everything. But then they took me to run tests, and after the doctor came in, it was a couple hours. He said that the sac was there, and they cannot tell that, you know, I've lost the baby, and but he couldn't guarantee me that I didn't have a miscarriage. You know, just gonna have to wait a few days to see what happened, and then for me to schedule an appointment with my doctor. And they knew that it was an IVF transfer. So I went to my first ultrasound at 6.5 weeks. And we saw for the first time like the sacs, you know. But as she was looking around, she didn't see the embryos. And so she said, and we used 2 embryos this time. So, but, you know, she explained that sometimes it grows a little slower, and don't panic, you know, let's come back next week. But when I left there, I felt like I just didn't feel good about it. Because honestly, that week, I noticed a lot of symptoms that I had the first 3 weeks. I wasn't having them anymore. Breast tenderness and urination a lot, like that after she made it clear that something may not be right, I was like, you know what,
Right.
things have changed for my body this week. And then I went into the next week with the same thing, none of those symptoms, but trying to be positive. So it was about 10 days before they scheduled the next appointment. And that's when they told us. So I was at that point
So how would you say your
well
mood is
into
right
7.5 weeks. And they just told us that, that the embryos hadn't grown. Up until I hadn't been in church, physically church, since COVID. I went to church for the first time this past Friday. And so I needed it because I was like, I felt like I was just going, stir crazy. Prior to that, I was in a really dark place. Not suicidal, but just exhausted. I've never thought about not trying. But the past week, I was really at a point of maybe I'm not supposed to be a mom. Yeah, so and my husband was like, no, we're not saying that, we're not doing that. He's been very positive through this entire experience. But I just got to a place this past couple of weeks where I felt like giving up on the whole entire process.
What you've been through.
Thank you.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's really no other equivalent of any medical or social condition in our culture that equates to the loss of not being able to get pregnant. Mm-hmm. It's primal, it's evolutionary, mm-hmm. It's your legacy, it's who you are as a woman. Mm-hmm. It's who we are as men and women. It's everything about that. And so the inability to get pregnant and have a baby and to reproduce it's one of the deepest things you'll ever experience.
Right.
And miscarriages are particularly tricky because I don't think our culture recognizes them in the same way as having lost a baby. Mm-hmm. But you've lost 2 babies.
Right.
You've lost 2 babies. There are no Hallmark cards for miscarriage.
Right.
People don't even know what to think about it. They don't know what to say. They don't understand it. Until you've been through it, and I've had one also, you can't describe that to anybody. Even your husband can't quite fathom what it feels like when it feels like your body has betrayed you in some way.
Right.
And I will tell you that women in particular feel responsible for, maybe not fault, but just responsible. Somehow this isn't working for me.
Right.
And you start having those thoughts like, it's so frustrating that you feel like maybe I'm just not meant to have a baby. That's a very, very common thing, because if you can't explain it and you're just explaining it, then you start looking for another explanation.
Right, exactly.
Do I deserve it?
Right.
Maybe not maybe it's something I did 20 years ago.
Right.
So I'm really sorry you're going through this. And I will tell you something else too. When you tell me a little bit about what you've accomplished as a woman, as an entrepreneur, as a career person, it's going to be particularly difficult for you because if you're a very goal-oriented person,
right,
for what you've accomplished by working harder, working harder helps you achieve a goal. Mm-hmm. Set your sights on it. I'm going to get, whatever you come down to the goal. You work harder, you achieve your goal. Mm-hmm. It's going to be maybe the first thing in your life, Earica, that you've run up against, that working harder doesn't fix it.
Right. Right.
Working harder doesn't, and that is extremely infuriating.
Right.
Like, what can I do?
Right. No control.
What am I going to do?
Right.
Give me a job.
Right.
I mean, you've done the work,
right.
and you still haven't achieved your goal.
Right.
don't want to see you give up.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to see you give up.
Right.
There's a statistic, if you take kind of the money out of the picture,
Mm-hmm.
the biggest reason couples drop out of treatment is not because their doctor says you don't have a chance to get pregnant, it's the emotional toll.
Right.
The emotional toll of, I just can't take this anymore.
Right.
So the goal here is to never let you get to that point.
Right.
Saying it's too hard.
Right.
Because there is a path for you. There is a path for you. So who is your team who's supporting you? Who do you talk to about this? Who are your confidants?
So my mom and my oldest sister, Kathy. I gotta be honest, it's kind of difficult for me. I talk to my husband about my feelings, and he's very positive. He's very, this is going to happen. But sometimes I feel like he doesn't understand how I'm feeling because, number one, he has a child. Like it's not a goal that he needs to accomplish.
Right. That's right.
And whether this happens or not, he has a legacy. It's just different. And so, but with my mom has experienced a miscarriage before, and she also lost a child before. And so emotionally, I think she can, every time it happens, she kind of goes through it with me, and I think it takes her back to those moments.
Right.
And so I can be very candid with her. And then my sister is very, she's very strong. But honestly, the first time I got pregnant, I told a lot of people. And so it was very difficult to go back and say,
yes.
So this time, like I literally, I probably can count on one hand how many people knew.
Yeah.
And because I was like, I don't want to go back then sending text messages or whatever and then go through that emotional piece of it. So it's been a very small circle that are even aware of the pregnancy. And so, but like I said, my mom, my sister, and my god sisters know, but they know I don't really want to talk about it, so they don't bombard me with questions. So, and then the problem has been now I can't really throw myself into an activity to stay busy to keep my mind off of it. So working on the nursery and Christmas and, so all of these things that I'm thinking I'm getting ready to do, these projects that are no longer, and I don't know why I don't feel like I can continue with the projects, because I'm like, it's going to happen. Like I'm going to have a baby, and it may be the non-traditional way, but I know that I have the resources and the ability to have a child. It was just, this was such a loss,
Do you feel like you are giving yourself permission and time to grieve this second loss?
Now I am. This time, yes. I have always struggled with sympathy, people having sympathy, and being that I had sickle cell anemia and I was always sick as a child, I have always been one to fight against the odds. You tell me that you probably won't be able to go to college because of your health. I'm going to go to college and I'm going to get several degrees. You tell me that I'm probably going to be on disability all my life versus having a normal job. Well, not only am I going to get a job, I'm going to climb the ladder. You tell me that I may not live to see 40. Well, guess what? I'm going to party my entire 40th birthday year to show you that I'm going to, so that's just always been me. And so, now I just kind of feel like, I'm just being punched against this wall because, like you said, this one goal, that I've, outside of everything, like this is a major goal in my life, and I feel like I have no control over it.
In many ways, you don't.
Right.
I think it's important to recognize that you are actively feeling grief. You're actively feeling a loss of a child. I always suggest and recommend that you find a way to ritualize those losses. Like if you lost a child, if you lost a dog, if you lost your mother, if you lost anybody else in our culture, we have rituals for those losses. We have rituals for saying goodbye. We have rituals for memorializing.
Right.
So there's no reason you can't also memorialize those babies that you lost. And I don't really care if other people get it or not.
Right.
It's not really of interest.
Right.
You know, what matters is that you recognize those losses and accept them and be okay with, I lost 2 babies.
Right.
So you can put a charm on a bracelet. You can write a letter to these babies with what you expected and, you know, your hopes and dreams for them, and then burn it and light a candle or do it. You know, you might want to just do something just to recognize that it was real, because the rest of society doesn't really see it.
Right.
Sort of alone in that feeling of, why does this feel so badly? Because people tend to say things that are really stupid, like, oh, you'll just try again.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Where do they get these things?
Right. Right.
Where do they get these things?
Right.
So, you know, you find something that makes sense to you. You know, I have a client just a couple of weeks ago who had several miscarriages, and she had a little charm every time she was pregnant. So she's putting on a bracelet and then putting it away. I mean, you know, you just find something to say,
wow,
you were real, I was pregnant.
Right.
I was going to love you, and now I'm not going to have you. I'm going to have another baby.
Right.
You existed.
Right.
You existed. So I would definitely suggest you do something to ritualize those losses.
Absolutely.
It helps you move through the grief process a little more.
Right.
It helps you through it.
So I'm actually doing much, much better. I have completed my therapy sessions. It was difficult. It was a lot of reality moments for me, reality checks. I gotta say, I've been in therapy. I've done therapy before, and I have nothing against counseling. I think sometimes it's needed. I do feel sometimes, especially in the African American community, people will look at counseling as a way of a sign of weakness. But I think it takes a lot of strength to admit, I need to talk to somebody. I need help to get through the situation. I'm a strong believer that, you know, you go to God with everything, and I'm not saying that prayer wouldn't work, but sometimes we still need to talk, and these people are licensed and they have the skill sets to help us and to kind of cope with situations. So like I said, I'm a strong believer in therapy. I'm doing much, much better. I now see that there is light at the end of this tunnel, and I'm just looking forward to 2022. Thank you guys for your thoughts and your prayers, and let's anticipate having a baby Cole in 2022.
That's a nice overflow plan. Yeah, so EJ wants a lot of yard, which I do too. But the way that the market is, we can go with a custom built home, or we can come into like, no. So that's the thing. If I wanted us to get in something quickly, we can come and pick out a floor plan, move into a subdivision, and it's already mapped out.
How does he feel about moving into a subdivision?
That is your included product.
He's like totally against it, but I want to give him options because it's like so much going on with the market. So, like, and they got like, I rolled through the neighborhood, but just to look at, I want him to be open, like when I bring him back, to see that we can just actually like come pick out a floor plan and, you know, boom.
Okay.
So I like the little open space. I would want it to be more like, see, like stuff like this. I wonder if
You can change from
if we would be able to change like the tile, or, you know, have a island put in here, kind of like make it our own, even though it's their floor plan, make it their own. Like I was just, and then too,
square footage.
I was about to say that. So it would be me and him. So do we really need a big old house when it's just gonna be me and him the majority of the time? This is kind of scaled down from what my original plan was.
Well, why would you scale down?
I'm just thinking about in the long haul, with 2 people living in the house, why just because I want a big home, is that necessarily what we need for 2 people? And have visitors, like the kids will come and visit.
How many bedrooms is this?
This is a 4-bedroom, but it's on a small, smaller scale. So you got the half bath there. This is the laundry area.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that
This will probably be the garage.
they got a lot. So I love the size of this.
So it's like a weight room.
Almost, and then I thought about, an office. I would want an office.
Well, let's check
That's
upstairs
the-
to see if
let's
they
see
have
what's
space
upstairs.
for an office.
And then you have another one.
How many baths?
So this is
2.5?
So I think it's 2.5 bath.
Okay. Double
But
sinks?
it's a nice. Now the only minus here would be how close the rooms are to the master bed.
Well, it's nice size rooms though.
The closet's too small though.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a minus for him, trying to persuade him,
Okay.
because the room's so close up.
Okay.
How close the rooms are.
But they still have a nice.
It's still, but
Space.
everybody would be like, I kind of did envision my master bedroom separate from everybody.
So you would want your master bedroom on one side of the house, and then everybody
Right,
else on
but
the
then
other.
again, it's just me and EJ at the end of the day.
It's true.
It's just me and EJ. So
But why
this
not
would
get
be
something
guest
that you
rooms or
dreamed of
office.
having?
I know. It's just so much going on with the market. Now this is the master.
Oh no, this is a nice size master. Okay.
I am interested in the looking
Oh,
at the
look at the
large.
shower. I like that. That's pretty different.
So you got. Oh, they be having these model homes decorated so nice.
You wouldn't see them there.
I need a big closet like just for myself.
So honestly,
I don't think I'm
one of
gonna
those rooms you would have to turn into an office.
Yeah. So I don't think I'm gonna be able to sell EJ on moving to a subdivision. I just wanted you to see it, the thing, because I'm gonna bring it back just to, because instead of it taking us 2 years or a year to build a custom home, we could like come pick out a floor plan and we could have a house within like a matter of months or a year. The way that they, building them up. So,
But if you
but if I
go
custom build,
it's gonna
it's gonna
take
take
longer.
us a year or two for the house to be completed.
Okay.
So I just wanted what you think he'll say.
Listen, EJ is not gonna go by this. He wants land. I don't see how she's gonna sell him.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, you're looking right out the window to somebody else's home. And I know you already talked about having space around your home. So I don't know. I mean, you can try, but I don't know. Might be kind of hard.
Yeah.
But this is a nice home.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice.
But I just really think that you should do something that you have wanted and not just settle for
Trying to do something fast. All right. So I'm willing to compromise because we really want our own place together as a married couple. He moved into my existing home, and so we're ready to build something or have something that belongs to the both of us. And the way that the market is, it's just taken a long process for a lot of custom homes to be built. So I would like to bring him out to actually see where we could actually just come pick out a floor plan and boom, be in a house within the year. So I don't know because he's totally against it, but we'll see.
next time on Eara's Girls.
Education is important.
And it's not that I don't want to get my education. It's I don't know about it right now.
And you gotta have that education to understand, especially when you want to open up your own business as an esthetician. You need to know business sense.